Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 24th of October, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. The market's generally actually uh, looking a little bit better today after yesterday's rout, so it'll be interesting to see how that affects things. All eyes will be on the US opening again. The dollar holding its strength, so still looking short-term bullish. The euro short-term weak. So we haven't yet activated this downside target on the 60-minute chart to 112 against the dollar, but we are just seeing that that dollar strength still continues. Against the yen, we saw a bit of a dive yesterday in the dollar. Money moving to the yen as a safe haven, but we've seen that dollar recovering against the yen this morning. Sterling down, still below 130 at 129.70. Downside targets to 126.60, 128.13. Looking at sterling against the euro, we're still bearish on the short-term chart. Downside target of 111.40. And against the Swiss franc, we're lower, and against the pound, against the dollar, where Aussie dollar, we're lower. Bitcoin is actually up just under 1%, so the first jump in a few days, and that's put us in a short-term bullish mode. But overall, Bitcoin really hasn't done very much over the last few months, and we've seen that damping effect where the chart's just fallen away and away, and then seems to have found support around the 6,000 mark, but we haven't got a reversal yet. Looking at the US markets, they actually recovered somewhat at the end of the day yesterday. We saw this rise on the 60-minute chart. So we did spike lower, and we have actually closed above the low. That shows up quite nicely on the lagging line, but it does still look pretty bearish. Medium term, we're below the cloud, but we at least didn't close below the previous low. Looking at the Nasdaq 100, much the same picture there, and the Dow is actually holding on to its bullish trend. So interesting there. The Russell 2000 is really where we're seeing the capitulation, and so it is showing the breadth of the market, the smaller caps falling away. The futures are actually still down, so we're down 0.5% on the S&P future, and the Nasdaq E-mini down 0.5%. Market is pricing in further falls today, but maybe those futures will recover. The European futures are up this morning, so does suggest we'll see a little bit of a rebound. Europe didn't get the benefit of that recovery of the US, and the DAX future is also up. So that will be interesting to see. Markets in Europe generally were pretty heavily hit yesterday. Interesting, UK mid caps fell heavily. The DAX fell pretty heavily, down over 2%, and the CAC 40 was down 1.7%. Looking to Asia, Japan up slightly, but still looking bearish on the medium and long-term charts. Downside targets of 13, 16% on the medium term. So still pretty worrying there. The Hang Seng Index down very slightly overnight, and the Chinese market recovering only 0.25%. So still looking very bearish and a big worry for global markets. The Sensex down up 0.5%, so looking a little bit better, but still bearish medium and short term. And the Aussie market down 0.25%. No sign of recovery there. Brent crude fell very heavily yesterday, really just fell away, and we're now sitting at $76. So downside targets of 75.42 still in train, and WTI also fell heavily. 65 is the middle downside target. We're now at 66.52. Looking at US nat gas, relatively strong at $3.20, and gold, of course, was a beneficiary yesterday, up to 12.35, nearly 12.40 at one point, but we've activated these upside targets now, so gold looking strong. Silver also looking strong, and US 10-year Treasury yields actually dived yesterday, recovered a bit this morning to 3.15%. German bonds falling away only slightly. Looking at the Asia Pacific markets, we see here, just this data all coming from Yahoo Finance, we see here that we are still pretty much in the red. A lot of these indices, China and India and Japan up. So taking a look at the Nasdaq stocks, just to give us a backdrop, we had some really strong performances. Cadence up 15%, and Tesla was actually up 13% on news that one of their main hedge fund shorters has actually turned bullish on the stock. So that takes Tesla a little bit away from that 250 level for now, but still is a bearish looking chart. We saw stocks like Netflix looking higher, but if we go to the fallers, we still had Nvidia looking pretty weak. Electronic Arts also looking pretty weak. A lot of these stocks starting to make big moves to the downside, so really something to worry about. Apple was actually up in the end, so Apple is really holding its strength as the bellwether. Google actually ended up slightly as well, but still looks bearish in that medium-term chart. And Amazon also looking reasonably good. Taking a look at the Aussie market, Regis Resources up 5%, so looking strong there. A few stocks actually up 5%. But again, the charts, this one looking amazing. This is Saracen Mineral Holdings. Actually, in a weak market, has performed incredibly well. Um, but interestingly, we do have some pretty big fallers. Worley Parsons actually falling and really now looking very bearish medium term. We've got the point and figure targets there. Super Retail Group down 9%, down 10%. So we are seeing some stocks still. Bellamy's also looking very bearish and has done for several months. So not all stocks are looking that bearish, but boy oh boy, some are looking very bearish. And here we see, and you'll find them really in the laggards for each day. Looking to India, Bajaj Finance is actually the best performer, up 6%. But again, looking medium-term bearish. Petroleum stocks looking a little bit better today. We've got Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum, but these charts looking really terrible. Indian Oil Corporation, all these stocks looking pretty bearish. Looking at the worst performers, Yes Bank and Adani Ports down quite heavily. Again, breaking key trends. So we are just seeing, and we've got key targets. Look for these. Look for any new upside targets. That's going to be key there. Looking to China, as we said, we've got some stocks looking quite good here. The banks looking relatively strong in China. And if we look at the wheel performers, down 7%, China Railway, China Mongolia, in Mongolia. The Hang Seng was actually down, remember. We've got Galaxy Entertainment down as well. We've got Sunny down 4.95%, breaking key long-term trends. And if we look at the upside, we've got China Eastern up 2.8%. The Nikkei 225, again, we've got some stocks, Okai Electrical up 9%. So we are seeing some quite strong movement there. Taking a look at the other side of the coin, we still have some very big downside moves. Toho down 12.9%, Shumiko down some 11%, all heading lower. A lot of stocks breaking their long-term trends, so very worrying indeed. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.